All right, this is our first group assignment. We are group 4 for community practice. Um, First question, what are the messages that you received in your culture of origin or family of origin about mental health or mental illness?
I'll go first. I feel like growing up, there wasn't necessarily like a message, but it was I like as an adult, I very clearly like remember having members in my family who had some kind of mental disorder, whether it was schizophrenia that I now understand was schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder or other types of mental disorders. And in our families, it was just like she's just the crazy cousin. She's just, we just take care of her. We just handle her differently. Like, oh, you know her, that's just her. But it wasn't ever like, oh, this is this thing that was diagnosed with. This is how we help her, whatever, whatever. It's just like, that's that's crazy Jackie over there. Like, we all just know that that's her, whatever. So it was kind of in a like under like brush it under the rug in a one way, but also like protective way of like, leave her alone, you don't bother her, like she doesn't bother anybody, we don't bother her, we just take care of her. There's like an extra layer of protectiveness, but also like we don't talk about it. Like we don't go to the doctor, like we don't do all that. So it was kind of like very teeter-tottering of we acknowledge it and we don't acknowledge it. So I don't think it was ever a thing that we discussed as mental health, but it was always very like present in our family.
I would agree, and I always wondered if that was like a Black people thing. We don't talk about that.
Mhm.
No one talks about that. We all can see it. You know who needs help, but it's
Mhm.
like you don't know what it is. Or now knowing like I can name at least two to three people in the family who clearly are on the spectrum, just
Mhm.
high functioning, but
Yes.
you wouldn't know that because no one's getting tested and we don't talk about that. And if you go, you're going to get misdiagnosed. The doctor doesn't know what they're talking about, stuff like that.
You're
So,
being like, you're exposing our family
uh-huh,
secrets.
our business is our
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
And it's like a little skepticism towards
Mm-hmm.
doctors and stuff, for sure.
Yeah. Very.
Very.
And can
Um,
you talk about now that as an adult, can you mention, or they will be,
Mhm.
Now, that's interesting. It's just like something you still don't talk about.
Yeah. I think
No
it's
one
like
really addresses that.
yeah, I think in our family it's like okay, okay, sure, 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 sure. Like we don't really need to hear it. Like keep it to yourself, but not like a shame way, but like, okay, we don't need to hear it. So like a little bit of shame, but not like dismissive too much. It's
Mhm.
very like complex still.
uh, in Bolivia is my family of origin is in Bolivia, right? It's Spanish community, completely in Spanish language. Um, my family was having, my mom is social worker and I have two aunts. My dad is a lawyer. So we had a lot of conversation about mental health, but the society in general don't talk about it. We don't
Mm.
definitely not looking for diagnosis or medications. So it's like it's really looking bad at it. But the more I think about it, I think they solve the problem somehow when you see somebody different in your family. Just being
Mm.
there for them more often. You
mhm,
see, they will not be, we don't know what's happening with, no, we are all together eating. It's just part of the family. It's just he has more activity. Let's say
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
one of my kid has more energy, so he's like you just gotta keep an eye on that kid because
Yeah.
he's playing soccer all day and with the ball and the dog and it just has. It's not like, oh, something is wrong with him. We need to look for
Just a
help or
Mm-hmm.
personality
medications
attribute.
to help.
I,
That's not.
I do know Jimena because I was that kid and still kind of am that person. So it's interesting. I come from a background of both my parents are clinical PhDs.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so growing up, I played a ton of tennis. I'm sure you guys have watched my introduction videos, like, and I'm repeating record at this point. But I was basically like playing 5, 6 hours a day. And I'd get home and still like move. and like at school I was restless, and my parents, it actually caused some tension in their marriage that they're not telling me, because my dad was just like, he's just an active kid, and then my mom was like, no, he's got like sensory needs, he's he's like anxious, he's just not telling us. And I think it's really interesting. I guess I was openly discussing this all the time with
Mm-hmm.
my parents, and they were asking me, how are you doing? And I just didn't want to answer them. And like,
Mm,
so I feel like it depends on, I guess this is from your perspective, right? But um, like, I think a lot of people don't want to disclose that, like even if it's open, and it's like, it's kind of the job as, like, in our position, or like in my parents' position, hopefully they could have like, um, find a way to make it different, because this stuff's not easy to talk about, right? And like,
right.
I don't know. Um, so even in my position where I thought it'd be the most talkative, it wasn't. It's pretty quiet actually, now that I'm remembering it and reflecting on it.
Hmm.
And for Brooke, here we go.
Yeah, mental health was not talked about at all. Everything was like really hush hush in my family. My mom is an active alcoholic and has been for as long as I can remember, and that just never got talked about until I started bringing it up when I was 12 because it was such a problem that I felt unsafe in the home. But even then, like no family members were like willing to listen to me or do anything or talk to her even. Um, so that being said, I didn't know like any resources for myself, in regards to getting help within the family system. The next question is awareness on resources. Did you know that they were available? So, like, I knew they were available to me, but I felt like I wasn't the problem. My mom was the problem. So, how can we get these resources to her? But what were your guys' experience of like, did you know that there were resources when you were younger?
So
Well,
what's funny is technically I knew it was resources because my mom worked in a therapy office
Mm.
as an accountant. So it's like I'm
Oh.
in there, I'm aware of what's happening, which is probably why I'm even in this program in the first place. I loved being in that office. But were we the ones like going? No. I would just predominantly see like Caucasian or Hispanic people. There were rarely anyone that looked like us actually there. Did we work there? Yes. But were we getting therapy? No.
Mhm.
You were ashamed if you got therapy. Like, what's wrong with you? You're crazy.
It's for locals.
Mm-hmm.
No, like I was gonna say, like that's very similar. Like I didn't real I think for me, I thought like mental health care or therapy, anything in that relation was like something you went when you were in desperate need. Like some shit was going on and you needed it or you were forced in it. Like I think I would remember like shows like or like the movie Harriet the Spy when she got sent to like a
Mm,
child therapist because something was wrong with her or whatever. Like things like that. I always viewed it as like, oh, you go there when like stuff is really bad.
mm,
But also like Nicole said, like it's a white people thing. Like that's a thing that white people with money can go and do when they're
right.
sad or when this thing has happened. Like I was just watching like a really really old episode of like Living Single and a predominantly black show and they're like, "You're not a therapist? Like who do you think you are?" Because that's just what it was. Like if you're not white and you're not like severely traumatized by one specific thing, like mental health care is like not even like on your radar. It's not even there.
Brian, it sounds like you knew that there were lots of resources with your parents.
yeah. Um, I think so. Uh, let's see. Yeah, basically, I mean, it's a little different because my dad does psychodynamic theory, so he doesn't really believe in, I think, stuff like my parents' attitude towards mental health was very different.
Hmm.
Um, this also says illness. So I guess it's a little difficult to, I'm trying to intertwine that because my mom had cancer when I was like growing up twice. So it's like most of my childhood. So with that influencing, I think, recognition of mental health towards myself, I feel like overall we're just like kind of in the weeds a little bit as a family, but definitely financially. So I think that hurt in terms of getting therapy because, like Bree said, it's way too fucking expensive. And sorry for my language, but it's just the truth. And even like my parents who had resources to like help me see other therapists, it was still like too expensive for us to do. And psychiatrists is like another level of expensive. So I think uh for me it's like there was definitely and my mom's bipolar. So I think it's like for me I was definitely taught the message like something's a little wrong with you if you go to therapy. Like something's wrong with you versus you just need assistance.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
feel like that's definitely a message that I would love to tell everyone. It's like it's very normal to go to therapy and like you should be in therapy. It's like working out for your brain, and
Yeah.
uh
100%.
that message I didn't get till I started exploring what's going on with myself more and started externalizing how I feel, which is something I still struggle with. I think it's so hard often to be like, hey, I'm not good. No one wants to admit that. And anyways, sorry, what's going on? Yeah.
No, I feel the same thing was in it for me growing up. You they think psychiatric services is the same thing going to therapy. So you gotta be like really bad in order to be going
Mhm.
or have a lot of money. But even like that, you're going because you're crazy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this is straight. There was, even though my family helped with services, and we will help with foster care, and my mom used to work with kids, so we know these services and how psychologists and child development was necessary and how all that. But I don't think it was an option. Never. It did change something later on in my life when my dad, as as saying that he was alcoholic and he thought all his life was having this issue slowly, never was in our life or in the middle. Was never in risk or absolutely anything. I think my mom divorced him when the things start getting crazy. So so now he has his own group of people that he volunteers and he helps all that. So I think now it's more open in my family, but as a culture, I don't think is an economic issue. It's very expensive, and insurance doesn't cover, and it's no, and then it's really
Was that because of accessibility in Bolivia? I don't mean to cut you off, Jimena, but was it
no.
expensive because like you said, insurance doesn't cover it because it's not predominantly, it's not, it's not like
It's a
mainstream.
culture. I think you have more chances to go to church and talk to the
Mm-hmm.
priest, and they will help you,
Mm-hmm.
or talk to your family, and it will be a problem that we all solving together. And I was thinking during these many weeks talking about these points, right?
Yeah.
Trying to think there's nobody in my family who ever say have depression or like really, and we are a big family. I
Mm-hmm.
say,
Mhm.
well, that was my aunt who used to get out of work and say, I'm tired of all of you people. I'm going to bed. Like
Mhm.
at 4 p.m., like just done. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But by 6, 7, she will come down and say, hey, we are all eating, like
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
all being together.
Yeah.
So there was no that isolation, or it's like a very tight community. I think we all check on each other every day. So
And then I know
we
we
help.
have a time limit, but I want to propose the same question to Bree and Nikel as well. Because I feel like it's more mainstream, just like with white people, like just honestly, right? Like, and I don't know, did you guys have other outlets that came before? Because for me, it was like therapy was the thing that you went to when
Mhm.
shit was wrong with you. And
Mhm.
Do you feel like it was the same with you, or did you guys like go to church, or I don't know if you guys are religious at all, or there was any outlets before one sought therapy?
Church is definitely one of the main
Hmm.
ones they would tell you, like, oh, you
Hmm.
need to go pray or you can talk to your
Hmm.
pastor.
Hmm.
That's very big. And you can keep it within the group, like if you wanted to talk about it, but that just was like, it depends on who you're talking to. Because
Hmm.
sometimes you talk to one person and now it's all over the place, and you didn't want all that all over the place.
Hmm.
That would be a mess. So, mm, a lot of it is like, be strong, you're fine.
Hmm.
It's no big deal. Or you'll tell somebody and they're like, I did that already, or I went through that. You'll be all right. And you're like, never mind.
Right.
It's very
I think
closed-minded.
Yeah, minimizing and yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I think yeah, there was it's a lot of like, well, I did it, I went through it, like it's normal, it's fine. Like,
Hmm.
and then in terms of like who to talk to or who to go to, I remember specifically like I didn't get to experience or understand what the concept of like therapy was until I had my own issues that I
Hmm.
was like, this is normal, this is normal. And then it like blew up and it wasn't normal. And then I like understood things, but then simultaneously my younger brother was going through stuff where his blew up and then he was in therapy. And I was like, oh, that's like a thing that this is a thing that people do.
Hmm.
And you don't like just sitting in your home and talking to your family or like just sucking it up or just dealing with it. It's not functional. And
Right.
it does change. I don't know. I think my perspective changed when I was like having an outside source being like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Like what you're going through is not normal. And you having to just discuss it with like a parent and then that's the end of the topic and you still have to deal with it, internalize it, that's not normal. So like you do actually have to step outside of your family or your friends or your whatever social circle and actually get outside help. I think that was like a big turning point for me in my concept of mental health and like what it can look like. Um, but yeah, like really focusing on what Nikel said, like you kind of just talk about it within like your like close group, whether it is church or your family. And
Hmm.
that's like mental health care essentially. But it's kind of like almost redundant because we're in such similar positions and we're just kind of like, well, I know what you're going through because I went through it and it'll be okay. And then you're like, okay, fine. And then that person's going through the same thing. And it's kind of just this cycle.
Right.
And it's like not really, they don't do anything really.
Right. Okay. They didn't necessarily, they could have gone through that experience with some other people, or right. I think that's, hey, sounds like you're changing the patterns, Bree.
Yeah. Now I talk about my problems and I'm open and honest to where people are like, can you stop, please? You're making me sad.
All right. Are
Well,
we
that
on three or four?
So that really, I mean, I feel like you guys really covered, the
That's
stigma around particular
Hmm.
cultures
for sure.
and barriers, like financially and access to care were discussed. So, and we're
Okay.
already at 17 minutes.
Wait,
So,
Brooke,
uh,
I want to share one piece. Can I talk just a little longer? Because
sure,
I do want to say that like
she's
I
not gonna watch much more, but
yeah,
go for it.
okay,
It's
okay.
fine.
Well,
I kind of want
I
to add some stuff too. So like, yeah,
Okay,
let's go.
cool.
well, no, I appreciate everyone sharing that because I do think there is something that is just not culture like it's just amongst everyone and not culture specific is it is very difficult to ask for help and like everywhere like sounds like and not even in the United States I think it's just like there is this if we say something is wrong there is or not even wrong like we want help it is I think often maybe we're a bit of a different community because we're in our master's program. So I guess we're a little more driven, I guess, or we're driven people. But I think it's very often that it's like that comes with being ridiculed, like no matter who you are. It's just like, oh, I'm anxious. Even my parents like say that it's like they're like, oh no, my dad's like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You're active. You just keep exercising. And
Hmm.
it's really interesting how it takes a lot. And I know Jimena's a parent, so or a mom, not I wanted to get your perspective on with your kids, like I would assume it's really hard to see like them struggling, and mental health issues is not one that I would want to see my kids struggling with. I don't know if you can talk about this as a mom, like if you want to, or
Yeah, I have this fight between what because you have in the back of your mind all these from your background, right? Like though you'll be fine, you just go and run. You should just keep it to yourself, kind of thing.
hmm
And I do feel like I see a lot of parents too over medicating their kids and having them
Mm,
like just for real. Take let him go with his friends, play a little bit, do some exercise, you know.
hmm
If you are a human being and sitting in the computer for 8 hours when you are 6, 7 years old, you
hmm
need to move that body, you know. And
hmm
right.
we were reading the other last week, I think, about no last semester about how your mental health has a lot to do with your physical activity and the amount of sun that you get, and how exercise in community in group actually do amazing for depression, you know, even sometimes
Absolutely.
more than antidepressant.
hmm
So uh, so for me, let's try other things before. So I do
hmm
have kids who we take the time out of our life to take them to their friends and go, you know, to
hmm
go visit your friends. Nothing will help more than so that's how we try. But I'm always keeping an eye. It's like, is that a normal
hmm
mood? You know, like let I
hmm
have a teenager and she's so I was like, is that is that like teenager hormonal kind of thing? You
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so we are keeping an eye on those things.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we are here for you if you need help, but that is difficult as a parent for real. It takes extra.
Like Kel, because you're a mom too. Like, like, how do you? Because like your mom, like you said, you were exposed to it at an early age, and then now you're also in this program. Like, how do you look at your kids and like,
It's interesting because they're still little. They're 8 and 4. You know, they're
Yeah.
just little ladies. But like we had double deaths happen, and I had to like process grief with her. And that was interesting. Like, how do
hmm
we deal with that together? I That was a doozy, but it was just nice to have an opportunity to let her just like pour out. She has the ability to talk to me versus like in the house I grew up in. Oh God, no. Like we wouldn't have been talking about that. Or to be like, oh, they're in a better place and that's the end of the conversation. Like, no, she can tell me when, no, I want them here or I miss my grandma. I'm like, girl, me too. I miss my mom too.
hmm
So we just talk about it. I printed out like pictures, we color, we just sometimes we'll just go do like whatever my mom's favorite thing was or whatever her grandfather's favorite thing was. And it's just an interesting thing to be able to process that together.
I
It's
love.
not easy, but you
I
know,
I think it's just, I mean, it's great what you're doing, Akel, and like,
thank you.
breaking the structural change. It's like, definitely your parents would want that. And sorry, I didn't know you were a mother.
No, it's
But
fine.
I thank you for sharing too. It's just really interesting, that perspective that we have for people like that are kids.
Hmm.
I think I don't have kids yet, but I definitely are like, oh, mom and dad, why don't you do XYZ with me? Like,
Hmm.
but it's like in hindsight, it's like, ah, shit, I see why. But okay. Should we go on to the last question or last prompt, or does we want to talk more?
Yeah.
Brooke,
Any final thoughts?
Bree?
I do kind of have like a question. This is for Brooke and Brian.
Mhm,
Um, because we're talking about like culture and like
Mhm.
how that like plays a role and like
mm.
sorry to put you guys on blast, but like you
Yeah.
guys are gonna be like white therapists and like this in this career path. Like, how do you think you're, and obviously there's no like right or wrong answer, but like how do you think you guys will take into account like the cultural difference of like your guys' experience with like the white experience versus like a black brown experience with your clients? in terms of
Um,
like mental health stigmas.
for sure. I think a lot of it is calling out the obvious of like, I don't know what your experience was like, and I would really like for you to tell me about it so that I could better understand where this comes from. Um, and just, I don't know, part of like, I wrote a really lengthy paper in our diversity class because I grew up in a space of like Hispanic only. I was the only white girl in my fourth grade class, so I was part of a minority group where I grew up, and I looked different. Everybody spoke Spanish. I didn't. I had bright blonde hair. Everybody had dark skin and dark hair, and I felt like the oddball out. So, I feel like I got a sense um in a very different way of like what that felt like a little bit. And I've shared that experience with clients that I was a counselor for in substance abuse. And I think that that really helped them see like, okay, like, yes, Brooke looks different, but like we have experienced the same feeling. And I think that that is really helpful in the space. Sorry, my dog lost his ball under my chair. Brian, go ahead. I have to get this ball.
Yeah. Well, no, don't. Also, don't apologize for putting it on blast because, like, I really appreciate these conversations because I think, it's why I asked, like, you two and Jimena as well. It's like, uh, it's just different, right? In the way that cultures approach mental health, and we just gotta, like, be honest about it.
Mhm.
Because if we're not, then we can't find other common ground, which I felt like has been useful for just I suppose like for me doing like the person to the therapist reflections and like self to the therapist stuff, I've just been reflecting on thankfully I grew up in New York, so I feel like I like a melting pot in New York. So I had a lot of experience, like different cultural experiences and different religious experiences and um I think just honestly uh, in therapy for me, what has worked best is just being curious. Like, but also, uh, what's tough is it's like being curious and then also seeing like the individual component of it. It's like what, like, okay, yes, this happens, but how are we moving forward? And then try not to, you know, like step on that, and like assume that uh you could do better in that situation. I think it's the tough part. Um it's definitely interesting. I think I don't know. I feel I feel it's just an ever longing like getting to know your client. And I
Mhm.
don't know, the more we've gone through this program, it really gets me thinking it's so individual. Like it's systemic, but it's also individual based in how people process like let's say uh not having access to like mental health services. Some people would be like really mad, and some people are just kind of more like I'm here now in the present. So I think it's how people process trauma too. I think is just so different, and I just I just think not making assumptions is crucial. Like
Mm.
at the end of
Right.
the day. Sorry, it's kind of long-winded answer, but yeah,
Answer. I think it's like that's an interesting thing where it's like I've seen people online be like, yeah, like, and they say it in a joking manner, but it's also very true. Like, oh, I went to my white therapist, and my therapist was like, hey, why don't you stop talking to your family if they're making you mad? And it's like,
yeah,
you told me a black person I gotta stop talking to my family because they made me mad. I can't do that. Like certain like methods or like suggestions in therapy are very like white American centered, and then it's like you're not taking into account like the black family dynamic or like the black experience or the like those type of things. And I think when like a few of the therapists I've had who are white, some of them are very like, you tell me how that would work out in your family and like
Mm,
your history with like your culture because I'm not going to tell you what to do or I'm not going to give you the suggestion if it's going to like cause more issues for you. And then I've had another white therapist that's like, well, self-care, girl. You do you. Like, you can't put anyone before yourself and things like that, where it's like, did you not just hear what I just,
No,
or like the
absolutely,
context of like what I said? Like,
for sure.
Right.
like, I think that kind of stuff of like taking into account the cultural weight that so many people bring into their therapy sessions is like important. Like, yes, treat them as an individual who's coming in there with an individual problem, but also that cultural context is like can be really fucking heavy the minute that they step in through that door. And yeah, I really like when people are like honest about like, I don't know what your background is or like what your cultural dynamic is, but I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to provide you with the care that fits that. So, it's
That's
interesting.
good.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love what you said, Brianna, with the therapist being like, "Will you tell me what that would look like in your family?" That is like, I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket because that's exactly what we should be asking as therapists. Like, no therapist should ever be making suggestions or giving advice. That's not our role, you know? So I always think of like, you know, really trying to remind myself that the goal of me being a therapist in general, but particularly with someone who is of a different culture or background than me, is like prompting them with questions that are specific to their experience culturally. Um, and doing that in a way where it's like I'm not bringing it up in a sense of like necessarily even like making them feel different either. It's just like, well, tell me
Right.
about what that would look like in your family, you know? So I
Mhm.
really, really like that.
I feel like this is going into our last question too, so I feel like we could just keep talking actually. It's talking about
Yeah.
stigma, self-care, and plans moving forward. I definitely uh just yeah, appreciate you bringing that up, Bree, because I think, you know, just assuming is so harmful, culture aside, like too. It's like um just filling in gaps of information for people's experiences versus working collaboratively is just, I think, can be so harmful, and it's just like um, finding finding common ground. I think your therapist did not do. Your second therapist was like, why don't you just do self-care? It
Yeah.
sounds like you don't want that shit and you want to talk about what's going on and process, right? And so, like, also just getting to know you as an individual, I really think is just lacking so often. Even like I've been to therapy and, you know, because my parents are therapists, they thought I would want to talk about my problems like right away. And that led to an episode of like depersonalization for me. I think I've shared with Brooke, where I was just like, I thought I just talked about it. Turns out that's not how I want to process, and I don't process like that. Um, and it's just, I think just assuming is super harmful. And going forward, I would not, I would, let's look at the question. Yeah, I would, if I screwed up, I would want to talk about like also talk with the supervisor or maybe get consult with a colleague of mine who has a more familiar background too. That's always like super important and just like practical and normal, I feel like, or should be normal at least.
Hmm.
Anyways, yeah.
I, I personally think that sounds great. I would like to have a set of colleagues who maybe having more information about the culture, they will understand a little bit more, you know? Uh,
Hmm.
we, I work, I was working a nonprofit working with all Mexican families. Mexicans are very different than Bolivians, and very different. That each country has their moral and basis that may be very different. Sometimes I will be talking um, in the whole class, and they will start laughing because one word will mean
Mm,
something basic for me, like feeding the baby, and for them it will be some sexual thing, and they were like all laughing because my class is mainly Mexican. So
Uh,
the understanding and the sense, choosing the same culture is such important, especially when you're talking about emotions, and it's so difficult just to start and open that conversation. So for me, it will be having more people related to if I have African Americans or like somebody who is the culture, to be sure that I know, you know, like, do you
Mm-hmm.
think I'm doing this good? Or where do you, do I be more careful in different areas? Or just to be sure, at least for the first few years, to have this diverse group that will help me just to process some clients that may be hard, Some
Right.
patients are very easy to handle, I'm imagining, but the other is more deeply cultural.
I think it's
And
also good to like just as a therapist, also just be like, hey, like, do you feel to just ask a client, do you feel like your cultural dynamics are influencing the problems you're bringing into therapy? If yes, okay, cool. Like, let's break that down. Like, culture wise, where do you stand? What is it like? Get a breakdown so you do have that understanding. Like, even me
Mm-hmm.
as a Black woman, I'm gonna still like, I I don't know like what a client who comes from a Latino family is gonna feel. Like, I don't know a Filipino client, like, doesn't matter. I think getting that breakdown of their cultural dynamic and like how that is playing a role and why they're in therapy will definitely like make it a little less like intense in terms of how to acknowledge those issues. Um, and like less scary and less like, I guess, impersonal, I think.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely in like just acknowledging the difference, right?
yeah,
Like versus leaving it like just not there and being like there is like no
The
difference. It's
elephant
like
in the room.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. Like I could not think of the word. Yeah, exactly. Simple as that, right? And it's not easy. So, but it's got to be done.
No.
I
So
would agree. Ask the questions, the hard questions first.
yeah. Um,
All right, what are we at,
Anybody
Brooke?
anybody have any self-care thoughts? We're
Oh
at
yeah.
36 minutes.
well, self-care, go to there. No, I
I
honestly, it's
know.
very funny because I feel like I know they said this in our like when we were first interviewing to like get into the program. They're like, you're gonna find stuff about yourself as you take classes. You're gonna discover things. Blah, 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 blah. I was like, I know who I am. Like I had like a massive breakdown last month over something because I was like connecting like schoolwork to it, and I
Yeah.
said,
Mm-hmm.
oh no.
For
This
sure.
sucks. So I think like for me, like my self-care is like I need to start getting back into therapy myself and start acknowledging like, oh, like I'm in school right now, I'm learning this, this, and this. Certain things that I really was like done with and like felt fine with, I'm not fine with. And I think, yeah, my biggest self-care is like going to my own therapy sessions and like being honest with my own therapist while I'm trying to like help people be honest with me as a therapist.
I fully agree because there's no such thing as, oh, yeah, you're a therapist, you're fine. No, I think they are holding the most because you're holding so much space for everyone else.
Yep.
Where's the space for you?
Mhm.
So, yes, please, therapy for your own self.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, no, you can't take it all home. You just cannot.
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, every
And
week in my therapy sessions, I'm talking about what I am learning and how that applies to me, like the neurobiology stuff in parent-child. I'm like, oh, so that's why my cortisol levels take forever to regulate. It's because I CPTSD since 4 years
mhm,
old, and like this is just how my body regulates itself now because we're in a constant state of like, am I gonna fight or flight or freeze, you know? And so like it's honestly been a blessing to be able to like work through this and understand like the brain science behind it all. It's been really good. I feel like that's a huge part of self-care is just understanding myself so that I could show up for other people the best of my ability.
Mhm.
love that.
I think I will do the same, having therapists all the time, because I do. Last semester, I started picking up a few things that I thought were resolved, and it's just showing up again. I do believe once you guys who don't have kids yet, uh, I felt like it was easier for me to parenting my kids before reading all this, before knowing all this. Because looking backwards, like, oh yes, I did. I don't know, breastfeed my babies and hug them all the time and give them because that's what we do as a culture. More say,
Mhm.
okay, that's good. I can imagine starting from the beginning. It's like, this can change his whole life, or being aware of all the how important is your presence in there. I think that will put extra weight in the way you're double guessing absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
that's what I'm doing with my teenagers. Like, I did good until now so far. Like, why am I double guessing so much? I was like,
Mhm.
just stay solid here. I'm here for you. I love you. But you have rules. It's not like whatever your heart decide. Like, no, we have structure and they
Mhm.
need a parent. But it's so difficult once you are aware of all the connections that you as a parent have into their life. So
For
I think
sure.
that is something that I have to be careful, especially when you carry problems from work.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I definitely resonate with that, Jimena. Uh, Not from the parent sense, but from just being like all these negative like implications that are just like our day to day. I feel like I don't know if anyone else feels this like, oh, I know maybe I shouldn't do this, like, and I'm still doing it and trying to like perfectionistic tendencies of trying to be like the perfect person, like have all your stuff together before you start being a therapist is
Yeah.
it's like I feel like it's surfacing a little bit. So definitely going to therapy to talk about stuff that I already talked about, but also just I think processing as well, like Mikhail said, like just you can't hold it all in yourself. Like compassion fatigue is real. And yeah.
Yeah, I think boundaries and time management is going to be like really, really important too. Like I'm thinking about like practicum coming up and like, dude, there's a site in San Diego that requires you to work 20 hours a week and then donate, or it says to volunteer an additional 5 hours to a project of your choice. And I was like, I'm already volunteering
Which
20
side is this?
hours.
She's
I
like,
don't
wait, what side is this? So
I
I
don't
don't.
even, I don't know. I crossed it off the list immediately. I was like, yeah, fuck that. That
Mhm.
is like literal abuse of like they are
That's
trying
too
to suck us
much.
dry and get
Yeah.
everything that they can out of us. So like that's a hard boundary for me of like I am not doing more than 20 hours a week. Like
Mhm.
absolutely not. Like under any circumstances, I'm sorry, but like that's my cap. Like I'm going to school, I'm working part-time, like no fucking way.
Right.
Mhm.
That's
I
good.
think already it's unethical that we don't get paid at least a minimum wage, but that's a whole nother topic.
For another group discussion.
Next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Thank
And
y'all.
week 4, come
Week
back
4.
for our follow-up on.
Honestly. Yeah.
All right, guys, great group. I'm gonna end the recording now.